Everybody, Tim Kawakami here, 49ers Plus Minus on a Thursday morning, the dead week before the Super Bowl comes to Santa Clara. I don't care that much about it. I know everyone's going to be writing about it. I will not be. I'll be writing about the NBA and the trade deadline. Thank you very much. But I got Matt Barrows here, my co-host. Matt Barrows from The Athletic. That's where he's from. Barrows got a lot of stuff going on. People, 49er fans especially, are very focused on the defensive coordinator search. It could get interesting. Maybe got a little bit more interesting or a lot more interesting just the other day when Jim Schwartz did not get the Cleveland Browns job. Todd Monken did. And a lot of reporting that Jim Schwartz stormed out of there. He's mad. And I am a little suspicious, I'm sorry to say, of all this reporting. It feels like queued up for Jim Schwartz to negotiate either a better deal in Cleveland or somehow pump himself up. But he's someone that has been tough on the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan's offense, runs the 4-down linemen, can do the wide 9. Do you consider Jim Schwartz a possible top candidate for the 49ers open DC job?
Yeah, he definitely didn't go gentle into that good night as he was walking out of the Browns facility. I agree with you. It does seem like it's something set up where they come begging for him to come back. He's got more power in the organization, et cetera, et cetera. But I think if you're the 49ers, you inquire. I mean, you're not you don't have to rush to fill this spot. No one's clamoring to hire Gus Bradley from underneath your feet. So you've got that ace in the hole. So you just have the wherewithal to look at all possibilities. I mean, I haven't heard.
Cleveland does not have to give him permission, by the way. Also,
Cleveland does not have to give him permission, but I mean, you kind of wait and you see how it all kind of unfolds. My point is, you don't have to make a move today. This week, you don't have to make a move next week if you didn't want to. They haven't done any interviews yet. I mean, I keep asking about, okay, it's any Rooney Rule interviews this week set up? Nope, haven't heard anything. So I don't think that I think that Kyle Shanahan would love to get this out of the way so that he can jet off to Cabo and play some golf and drink a couple of beers and spend time with his family and things that he misses doing. But there's no real impetus on it. I've heard that Raheem Morris is perhaps a candidate. He's in the running for the Cardinals job, head coaching job. So I don't think anything's going to happen on that front until the Cardinals situation is all sorted out. So basically, they're waiting and kind of seeing how some of these other teams are going to handle their guys before they make their final move.
The other thing is, since Kyle can't lie, and he's up at the podium asked about Gus Bradley, he's like, yeah, he'd be the top candidate. He'd be the guy. And like, you might be tough to get other real candidates to try to interview if they know this is not likely to be their job. Now you can convince them. I'm sure Jim Schwartz would think that if he interviews, he's going to get the offer. And maybe he would, but it could be part of this. 49ers also don't announce, interviews that much. We hear about them through good reporting, like Matt Barrows is doing, but they certainly aren't going to put out tweets about who they're interviewing. That does not tend to be their thing. I'm trying to figure. Last year with Saleh, that was not like everybody knew, right? It was like, okay, it could be Ulbrich, it could be a bunch of people, but I don't know that they ever made it public who who the Rooney Rule interviews and how they qualified for that. All those things. Tends not to be their style, but we'll see. I think Schwartz would be interesting. Again, 4-man down line. They're always going to do that. Has done the wide 9. Has worked with that whole system, man to man in the coverage, not zone. And 49ers have been traditionally zone. Now, I'm not saying things can't be adjusted. I don't know how that all fits, though. Big personality. He's going to be people are going to be streaming to his weekly pressers. I don't think Kyle likes that. In fact, I know Kyle doesn't like that. Now, they would have accepted it with Vic Fangio, same kind of deal. They did bring Brandon Staley into the building. He did not do pressers. It wasn't DC, but I mean, if anybody's got an independent media operation, it's Brandon Staley, and they did not like it. There are people who are worth it. Saleh, the second time, had been through the New York thing, so he had an independent media operation. That's worth it. Jim Schwartz could be worth it. I don't know that gives Schwartz a disadvantage in this, but I don't think it's an advantage. What do you think about, the Gus Bradley is his own, they know what he is. He's in the building. There's not all these leaks about how great he is. And now there's this flood of Jim Schwartz could be a free agent. Jim Schwartz is the greatest guy ever. Jim Schwartz is mad. I pause a little bit on that one, and from just looking at it from, Shanahan and Lynch's point of view.
I mean, you think about the 49ers philosophy. They are a defensive line and back team. I mean, and I think that's going to guide what they do this offseason in terms of free agency and in terms of the draft. And Schwartz is a D-line guy. I mean, he fits that. I believe he's worked with Kasurik before, right, in Detroit?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they come from the same kind of Jim Johnson kind of broader scheme, as my understanding.
Right. Jim Washburn.
Jim Washburn. Well, Jim Johnson was the kind of the overseer of that defense with the Eagles.
Yeah, these guys all come from Tennessee, though. Washburn and Schwartz were together there. So that's where this particular D line originates. So I think that there would be good cohesion from that standpoint. I mean, last few cycles, it's been all about, can you work with Chris Kasurik? Can you work with this style of defensive line that we run here? And for Schwartz, it would all be, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's my style as well. So the fit there is really good. You're right. They would have to kind of think about the personality fit, but I mean, go big or go home. I mean, what do you want to get, a mousy person as your as your defensive coordinator? So I think that they ultimately would, maybe there might be some misgivings about his, who he brings with him media wise and things like that. But what trumps things is, his philosophy and his effectiveness. And he's got A+ on both of those as far as the 49ers. Raheem Morris, I mean, he's a guy that's known Shanahan forever. He's worked with a lot of these Shanahan style offensive minds over the years. So I think that would be a good culture fit for sure. So he's just somebody to keep in mind. I think that he would definitely come in for an interview because he's close to Shanahan. And maybe he's not the defensive coordinator, but they find a role for him, assistant head coach.
Brandon Staley role 2 years ago.
Well, right? Brandon Staley role, Gus Bradley role. Good call last year. So I think that's a possibility too. So again, they don't have to. They're not looking to redo a lot on that defensive staff. It's just this and maybe a couple of other positions, but nothing seems to be imminent right now.
I still think it's going to be Gus Bradley. I'm not saying for sure. Obviously, you can interview people and think they're great and go a different way. And Gus Bradley's kind of always there. As you said, it is a little bit like nobody's rushing out to try to hire Gus Bradley away from you. So maybe that's a little bit of a hint, but my sense is that's the way it's going to be. Maybe some of this is just a delay to get everything in order before you actually promote Gus Bradley, but we shall see. Things could change. Jim Schwartz is a talented dude. There's no question about that. You want to try to go win a Super Bowl, who's the best guy possibly available if he gets out of Cleveland. Now, again, he could be the maddest guy in the history of the world and have every story leaked to ESPN possible how bad he is. Cleveland still has to contractually house him. So, and you can't do that assistant head coach little loophole thing anymore. They don't allow you to make it as a promotion. It's not. It's defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, the two highest assistant jobs. You cannot sneak in, oh, it's a promotion because it's assistant head coach. That's not real anymore. But he's talented dude, and I could see it, and I could see Nick Bosa loving it, and that would be a very important thing. So we'll see how this plays out. The Clay Kubiak thing seems a little more vague. Like he's pulled himself out of head coaching interviews. The 49ers would have to give him permission for offensive coordinator interviews, but he does not call the plays for the 49ers. Although Kyle did say, hey, sometimes he calls plays. He calls one or two. He calls plays. Do you think Clay Kubiak is out? Let's say Seattle loses Clinton Kubiak, his older brother. to be the head coach of the Raiders. I don't know. Maybe it's stupid to be, really short sighted. Hey, they just call up Clay Kubiak. Would, I guess, a division rival they just lost to in the playoffs, Shanahan would be even more motivated to say no. But like he's close to the Kubiak family. This would be the next step for Clay Kubiak to call plays. Would he absolutely block that, or block another team? Say it, Arizona hires whoever, Mike LaFleur, and he wants Clay Kubiak. Well, maybe like Mike LaFleur would call the plays, but it gives him, somebody's ready to give him play calling. Is this done? Kyle Shanahan is absolutely not letting him do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he said. That's what I asked him. Where were we? Philadelphia, I think.
Yes.
When I asked, would you let him go for an OC job if it's, it's the OC job? He's calling the plays, he's running the offense. And he was very blunt in saying no. And to me, that's why Clay Kubiak was getting head coaching offers. It wasn't maybe for the head coaching job. Interviews. I'm sorry, not offers. Yeah. But just kind of sussing him out and seeing if he, if they hire a defensive minded coach, whether he would want to run the offense for that guy. I mean, I don't know if Saleh thought about that in Tennessee. Saleh just hired Brian Daboll for that role, but I'm sure he would have liked the idea of bringing a Kubiak, bringing the Shanahan offense back east, maybe signing Juwan Jennings in the offseason. You kind of, it would come in with some momentum in that regard. But so, no, I don't think that, you see some of these offensive coordinator hires around the league. In Miami, Jeff Hafley just hired Bobby Slowick to run the offense there. I would think that if Clay Kubiak were available for some of these jobs, that he would be the guy being hired, or certainly being looked at. So I think that's off the table, unless it's a head coaching offer. I think that Clay Kubiak is coming back this year.
Come on, Kyle. That's what I said. I mean, I just think you want to encourage guys to get promotions, but because Clay Kubiak got this promotion to be the offense coordinator, he now can't move up, to call plays. Maybe it's a year. I just find it hard to believe that he's going to keep him down, like not keep him down, but prevent him from interviewing for jobs where he can do more, have more responsibility, have more of a platform. Maybe it's just a year. And, obviously Clay is the son of Gary Kubiak, who is maybe, other than his father, the second most important person in his coaching career. He runs the system. Basically, if you ask them, most of them say it's not quite Mike Shanahan's system. It's Gary Kubiak's system that he ran with Mike Shanahan. Like Gary Kubiak is the kind of, other than Mike is being the top of the top of the top, but like the kind of the intricacies of it come from Gary Kubiak's system. So just find it hard to believe that he would keep saying, no, Gary Kubiak's son cannot do some things that I think Kyle himself would be pissed off if he wasn't allowed to do it. But oh well.
Yeah, it was Gary Kubiak who gave Kyle his first OC job in Houston.
Exactly. So, maybe another year of this, and maybe he could use another year of seasoning. So it's just an interesting dynamic. Any other assistant moves around the league that you think could really affect the 49ers?
Well, I mentioned the Slowick to Miami. So Slowick is another Shanahan disciple, runs the offense. I think you kind of follow that if you're looking at possible trade partners for Mac Jones. The Dolphins have multiple third-round picks. I think they have 3 third-round picks. So, I mean, that's probably what you'd be getting for Jones, and maybe you could get 2 or some combination of picks. And maybe the Dolphins, because they have so many in the third round, would be willing to part with one of those. That seems like there's a lot of connecting the dots there. There's the Slowick connection. Mac Jones came to the 49ers specifically to work under Kyle Shanahan and to learn this offense. So he'd be running the same offense in Miami. Mac Jones is from the state of Florida. He's from Jacksonville, not very close to Miami, but it's still Florida. Good receiving core right off the bat. And some people are saying, oh, they should trade Mac Jones for Jalen Waddle. which is a great thought. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan would love Jalen Waddle. But that's why the Dolphins, that's what would make it an attractive trade for the Dolphins. All of a sudden, you've got your wide receiver taken care of, and you've got a quarterback that can throw to him. So it's AFC. The Dolphins aren't on the 49ers schedule coming up. The other spot for Mac Jones you have to keep an eye on is Arizona if they hire Mike LaFleur. This is Matt LaFleur's little brother. He spent time underneath Shanahan early in the Shanahan tenure here in San Francisco. That would be not only an NFC trade, but an NFC West trade. So I don't think the 49ers would be quite as jazzed about that. They would have to be really convinced. It would have to be a really
Darnold to the Seahawks has just worked out just fine for the 49ers.
Well, exactly.
They did not send him that rerouted through the Vikings, but
that would be so fantastic. You would have 3 quarterbacks in the NFC West who have been linked at least to the 49ers, 2 of whom kind of had their careers resurrected by Kyle Shanahan playing against him. So, yeah, I don't think that the 49ers would be too keen on that. But, hey, listen, if the Cardinals are offering their second-round pick, I don't know if you say no to that. So that's what kind of caught my eye. There are other spots where Mac Jones could end up easily. There's probably, half a dozen teams that looking at a quarterback. I mean, Minnesota, they had a good experience with the Sam Darnold reclamation project, and they're probably regretting letting him go, seeing him in the Super Bowl. So he could end up there, and that wouldn't be that different in offense. The play caller there is not a Shanahan disciple per se, but runs a version of the West Coast.
Similar system. Also, if Clint Kubiak gets the Raiders job, there's a team that absolutely needs a quarterback. Mac Jones would be just fine for them. He's better than what they've had. And you can talk some Matt Crosby with that one too, right? You get to do some interesting little combinations.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, I can see a Tim Kawakami column forming right now. How do you make that work? This is what they could do.
Yeah, I got too much Giannis on the brain right now, so I can't even believe I'm taking time out of that to do this podcast. But the 49ers are important. We'll keep going on this. You mentioned draft picks. Senior Bowl is going on now. Obviously, a huge moment for a lot of prospects, a lot of coaching staffs. I don't know if the 49ers are there. I'm sure some people are there. I don't know if John Lynch is down there, but they do tend to like this setup. Anybody standing out to you, just kind of early look at what the 49ers might be looking at, one of their early picks? Receivers and defensive ends are what we've been talking about. Daniel Jeremiah last week had Kenyon Sadiq going to the 49ers at 27. People screaming at me when I just retweeted it. Like, they'll never be there. He'll never be there. It does seem low for him, but somebody falls. You never know. And Daniel Jeremiah knows, obviously, the draft incredibly well. I don't know if Sadiq's doing the bowl tour here, but what are you looking at? What have you seen? What do you feel? Kind of early look for what the 27 pick might be and what maybe some of the other higher picks the 49ers have. Kind of what's the formulation here?
Well, I mean, I think Sadiq would be a really interesting, possibility if he did fall that far. You have to start thinking about life after George Kittle at some point. Kyle Shanahan loves kind of matchup issues. You put Kenyon Sadiq in the slot. That's a tough matchup for a Upton Stout size nickel cornerback if that's what the opposition uses. So you could see Kyle Shanahan looking at Sadiq and kind of seeing the possibilities. Same thing with Kyle Pitts in free agency. I mean, that could be if you lose Juwan Jennings, that could be your F guy. That's what they call the slot position. Like a real mismatch, a guy that can block if you decide to run the ball. That's a Tim Kawakami refrain. You see Juwan Jennings out there and you think, okay, this is going to be a running play because he's a fantastic blocker. You would think that Kyle Pitts for what would be a big slot, sort of like Travis Kelce, would be a good blocker in that position. Maybe not an inline blocker, but could do that. That's tight end. I do think that this draft kind of skews to the 49ers favor in that I think the sweet spot for defensive end and for wide receiver is end of the first round, early second. So I think there are going to be some guys there. Um, Guys that you should be looking at if you're a 49ers fan at the Senior Bowl. TJ Parker, a defensive end from Clemson. He seems like their style of guy. There are going to be a lot of these really light, sort of quick off the snap, pass rush only guys. I don't think that the 49ers love those guys. And maybe they do more so now than previous drafts because they've got Michael Williams to be the base down guy, and they could bring in sort of a fast edge rusher to sort of complement him. But, there are a lot of those guys who are sub 250 pounds. I don't think that's what the 49ers like. But if I'm wrong, there's a handful of guys that are going to be taken at the end of the first round, second round. Akeem Mesidor would be somebody. He's not at the Senior Bowl. He got an invite, but because Miami played so deep into the season, he didn't go. I think that he would be perfect. He could get to number 27. The big kind of red flag for him is that he'll be 25 by the time the draft rolls around. That's basically you go through your rookie contract and all of a sudden you're 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but if you're the 49ers and you're looking for someone who can play right away, contribute right away, while Michael Williams, Nick Bosa are finding their way back from their ACLs, Mesidor is 25. And, he's got a 25-year-old body. He's played a lot of snaps. So I would think that he, among the guys that you can get at that position late in the first round, are the possibilities. And then I'm starting to. I'm not going draft crush on you yet.
No,
Tim.
don't tip your hand.
Yeah. The Indiana receiver. I talked about him a little bit the last podcast we had, but he's really interesting, and he's going to be kind of in that mix at the end. Really, really good balance. Does a lot of like Deebo Samuel like things, a lot of screens. Really good after the catch. Not as big as Samuel by a long shot, but he's the guy that made that incredible catch in the back of the end zone against Penn State. I think he's a better route runner, or could be, than Deebo Samuel. So I think that he's going to catch Kyle Shanahan's eye at some point. Now, whether he pulls the trigger at 27, I don't know, but he just seems like a guy that Shanahan would like to have. Not perfect, not the IU crisp route runner type of guy, but somebody that you can get a lot of quality snaps out of.
I think your guy, Dane Brugler, great draft guy. I'm sorry, it wasn't your guy. It was your other draft guys had their first mock draft and had Concepcion from Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's the same
kind of guy. Yeah, same kind of guy. Get open guy. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Who's so good for the Lions. 49ers would love him. Now, you don't know. If you miss on a smaller guy, they tend to not be, do anything for you. But the small guy who's tough and can beat man coverage is really big. And the 49ers have had that. They just tend not to draft those guys too high, because if he's just another small guy, it doesn't help you in the run game, doesn't help you in other things. But I get it. I mean, every time I watch Texas A&M, that guy got open. Like, just get the ball to him and he can go do stuff. I don't know if the 49ers would use a first-round pick on a smaller receiver. It just does not tend to be what they do. But you tell Kyle, like, put him in a slot and you get him, Smith and Jigba is not that big, and they would kill for Smith and Jigba, right? I mean, like, you can't always get locked into that. You might want to just get a guy who can get open for you. And Concepcion is a guy I've seen get open. I don't know how he's a route runner. I don't know all these things. He just seems to have really quick burst ability. But I will say, like, Mekhi Lemon, I think you brought him up last time. I go, man, he's small. I think he's too small. And then again, I can't tell you exactly how he measures. I just watch him on the screen. He looks small. and 49ers do not tend to like Debo was short, but he wasn't small.
No,
and,
no.
and they tend to like heavier receivers who can just like be a physical presence too. And that is not Mekhi Lemon. I could be completely wrong about that. That's just my sense of it. Carnell Tate would be perfect, right? It would be just perfect for them. Probably going to go ahead of 27. And my thought was, if you can trade Mac Jones for a good third round pick, can you use the third round pick to move up from 27 to say like 22, right? 21. You couldn't move a big jump and then go get your receiver there if you're not going to be able to get him at 27. So we'll see. We'll have to play the scope out, but it's interesting stuff. I mean, just judging from the highlights, looks like they got some defensive linemen that are just blowing up people in drills. I'm sure the 49ers love that stuff. They're always interested in. I mean, they can use a defensive tackle, all right, Barrows? I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100% can use a defensive tackle. So keep an eye on all that stuff. Keep an eye on all these all-star games. Always good to keep draft mode activated. We are there. A long way to go before the draft, but that the 49ers are going to be involved with this. Just your thoughts. You got the Hall of Fame, you got the Bill Belichick's first year snub. Obviously, it's a big news. A really complicated Hall of Fame process is one of the reasons I don't love it. It's like committees and it's like arguing, on Zoom calls. And I've never trust Hall of Fames like that because dominant personalities tend to win out and weak personalities tend to not get, discussed or if you have someone making your case who isn't great at doing it, you don't get in the Hall of Fame. I don't like that. There is some like trickle down too for 49er relations. This probably means that Mike Shanahan can't get on the list next year because I think it's only one coach. And so Belichick has to come back up again next year. That knocks out not only Mike Shanahan for consideration, and he should have been in if you ask me, obviously. And there's a guy in an office at 49ers headquarters who really thinks that, and I agree with him. And Mike Holmgren also gets knocked down. Those are two guys who are just sitting there. George Seifert's another one. Like these are guys who have been pushed back, and now the Belichick thing pushes them back again because he's got to be nominated. However, it might push up someone else's case on this committee, on this group of seniors or whatever eligibles they call this. Barrows, you want to talk to that one? Do you think there's a shot that a very, 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 very popular former 49er player might get in this year because of this?
I mean, that's what I'm sort of reading the tea leaves as. I mean, the root of the issue is that some people didn't vote for Belichick because they realized that some of these other guys were facing their last chance to get in. And the rationale was that if, Belichick's going to get in at some point. So I might as well try to get these deserving guys in now before their chance expires. And one of those guys is Roger Craig, as Bay Area folks have been anguishing for years about him not getting in. And Craig, this was sort of the year of Craig in a sense, because Christian McCaffrey was vying for that 1,000 season, and sort of refocus spotlight on Craig, the first man to ever do that, and the first person to sort of kind of become this wide receiver, tailback, quasi player. So that now or never mentality that has cost Belichick a seat in the Hall of Fame this year, though Belichick's getting in, might be good news for someone like a Roger Craig. So, I mean, everybody seemed to be skeptical about that a couple months ago, but now that Belichick isn't getting in, there seems to be a little bit more possibility that Craig is.
Yeah, there's a group of coaches, players, whatever that group is, and that's not the main group, and you can only elect. Well, I guess if you got to get 80% of the people voting for that group to get in. We know that Belichick did not, so maybe the votes have gone. Like L.C. Greenwood's another candidate. I forget who another player. And this is a time running out for some of these guys. And Roger Craig, this is the last time on this ballot. So I would be all in favor of that. Roger Craig's incredible player, redefined that position. Great guy, just a tremendous guy. if Belichick's got to take the hit, I mean, I think it's silly that Belichick did not get elected. I made that point when Tony Dungy and Bill Cowher are in. It's ridiculous that Belichick would not get in at any time. But maybe Roger Craig gets a benefit of that, and that would be tremendous. That would be tremendous. Any sense on what this says about potential 49er current players in the Hall of Fame? Any thoughts? Like, I think we're all assuming Trent Williams is automatically in. Christian McCaffrey's automatically in. Fred Warner's pretty close. George Kittle's pretty close or in. Would you disagree with any of those calls right now?
No, I mean, I would think that George Kittle is in. I mean, you just look at where he stands. I mean, unfortunately, it's all done on receiving prowess, and he's there for receiving prowess. I forget where he lands among all-time tight ends, but it's already up there.
It's like top 5, right? Top 6, something like that.
Yeah, and he might be the best blocker among them. I mean, he is a what's the word I'm looking for? Someone who played at the same time as Travis Kelce. So you're going to be compared to Travis Kelce when the time comes for Hall of Fame. Kelce has been a big slot for most of his career. He rarely plays in line. Kittle rarely plays not in line. So, he's doing a lot more blocking than Kelce does. It's going to take a toll on his body. But I would hope that when it comes time for the Hall to consider him, that is brought up, that this guy was a traditional tight end. He was one of the best block. I mean, you could do a highlight reel just on George Kittle's blocks alone. And their Hall of Fame level blocking. So, I mean, I would think that he gets in first ballot. I don't know, but I would hope and think that he's a shoo-in once his name is eligible.
I'll throw out another name just as a conversation. Kyle Juszczyk, best player at his position in this era. I don't think there's a debate about that. It's not a position fullback that gets into the Hall of Fame. But it's got to be discussed. It's an important position. Means a lot to the 49er offense, means a lot to the 49er locker room. Not saying he's in. I'm saying, man, there should be a discussion about Kyle Juszczyk. But 9 Pro Bowls, I think, something like that. It's a large number. And this offense wouldn't run the same without him. Now, he doesn't play 90% of the plays. He plays like 50. But I think the Pro Bowl, if you're going to count that position in the NFL, which it does, not every team uses a fullback. In fact, most teams don't. But I would still say it's worth the conversation.
He's my rejoiner for all the electrical substation stuff. So my response is, well, I mean, if the substation is bad for your health, then the longest tenured 49er would be suffering the most, right? And that person is Kyle Juszczyk, who has missed 2 games since he arrived with the 49ers. He's in his mid-30s now. He's started 19 games this past season. His longevity, the fact that he doesn't get hurt, he takes really good care of his body. He plays the position in a smart way where it's not a meathead position like it was 20 years ago. He's very smart about angles and how he blocks and things like that. So that's what makes him kind of a special player. He's so reliable. He's your backup, field goal holder. He's your backup field goal kicker. He's your backup punter. He's just somebody that you just want on your team. It's amazing to me that they've tried to boot him off the team.
Yes.
The last couple of years.
They did boot him off the team.
They did boot him off the team. And then he came back. But, I mean, he's just so essential to what they do. George Kittle goes down with an injury. Guess who's the de facto tight end that kind of steps into a lot of those roles? It's Kyle Juszczyk. So, he's valuable to this team. Yeah, I'd be skeptical about whether he makes the Hall of Fame because they do seem to be much more, the line is becoming higher and higher, which I think it should, about getting in. The other topic that we need to discuss is we've got 4 guys who we think are going to make the Hall of Fame, playing for this team multiple years together, and they haven't won a Super Bowl. How is that possible?
Yep.
I mean, you win a Super Bowl, you increase your chances of getting in. Your exposure is so much greater. You become a dynasty, and now you're talking about multiple players getting in. And the 49ers certainly don't have a dynasty, and they don't have a Super Bowl victory either. So that's always going to be a bit of an obstacle, I think, for some of these guys.
Well, I think Eddie Pinheiro goes in, right? I mean, he's first bound.
Well, John Weeks and Morstead. Yeah. I mean, if you're putting in a fullback, you got to put in those guys because they were awesome this year.
Well, good, excellent point, Matt Barrows. Excellent point. Got the Super Bowl coming up a week from Sunday. Barrows, you're fully into that. You're diving into headlong. You're Mr.
I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but not only will the Seahawks be in the 49ers locker room, but I'm going to be doing Seahawks coverage.
There you go.
During the week. So
you were born for it.
It's humiliating on so many levels.
You were taking orders from Michael Sean Dugar. He's going to tell you, Barrows, I need you there. Would you
exactly. Shut up? Hey, my pen ran out of ink, Matt. Run out and get me a new one.
Be a good. Hey, listen, this is not the way I take my coffee. Go back and get me another one.
Yeah, so I know that the fans are up in arms about the locker room thing. They should really be up in arms about how Barrows is being treated during this Super Bowl.
You've earned that kind of treatment. I'll just face it. Your coverage has been there. I will not be doing any Super Bowl stuff.
Well, good for you, Tim. La-di-da.
That's my role in life, is to avoid stuff like that. Let's just quickly, we're going to do a mailbag episode next week. I will send out the number in a little bit, probably next week. But if you got any questions, we will love to answer them. We love your good questions. That will be an episode next week dedicated to that, whenever Barrows can pull himself away from the embracing the Seattle Seahawks. We'll throw out some mailbag answers. But let's just what's the offseason program? Give me a little layout. I always sometimes don't want to be surprised. Like, when's the first time, like that phase 1, which is not on the field work, but classroom, they can kind of get together? When will that start?
Well, first of all, you just opened yourself to about 1,000 substation questions coming in. So you're going to be doing
I can do that one. I can do that one. I will go off on that one. And I have a little bit already.
You better buy yourself a gurgonometer or whatever the thing is called that measures the. To answer your question, mid-April, late April is usually when guys start coming back in, and I forget exactly what they're allowed to do. It's certainly no on-field stuff with coaches or anything that early in the program, but it's weight room stuff, conditioning stuff, things like that, and then the draft happens, and those guys start coming in. They have the rookie mini camp, usually in early May. It turns into a different phase of OTAs or of the offseason program. They're on the field. They're getting some sort of coaching. And then the third phase is OTAs, and off we go. And that's usually maybe the second week, middle of May, the first OTAs, and then they run through early June. Then they have the mini camp, say June 10, and then they have their summer break, and late July rolls around and they're back in training camp. If Roger Craig gets in to the Hall of Fame, and Frank Gore, I don't know if he gets in, then maybe the 49ers play in the Hall of Fame game, and Tim Kawakami has to break off his summer vacation to get out to Ohio to cover a game out there, the first preseason game of the year.
You know what? I sort of doubt that would happen. I just saying. I think if Matt Barrows gets in the Hall of Fame, it still would be doubtful for me.
I'm going to get Michael Sean to do that for me. That's going to be the quid pro quo here.
He's your boss. And I would just outline. I would guess it would be interesting to see if Warner is on the field for those May OTAs. Bosa will not be. Kittle obviously will not be. Anybody else, you're just going to be curious if they're going to be there on the field for the May, just first time we see them on the field. I think Warner's
Michael
the one.
Williams won't be.
Yeah.
Alfred Collins is having a procedure on his shoulder. So I don't really know what the timing is on that. That'll be a question to ask John Lynch he'll probably be asked this week. I'm sure he's going to be front and center at some of these events, Radio Row, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll certainly see him at the Combine in February. But I don't know of any other kind of surgery guys. Jacob Cowing told me that he was, 100% by the end of the season. So he should be out there. But, we were saying that about Ricky Pearsall. Remember, that was going to be a big sort of spring story. Mm-hmm. Pearsall working with Brock Purdy, going to Jacksonville, hanging out with him in Arizona. They were going to be the duo. They were going to be the future of this passing attack. And then the first OTA rolls around. No Ricky Pearsall. He's got a hamstring strain that bled into the beginning of training camp. So that sort of set the tone for Pearsall's season. So Ricky Pearsall, Cowing, Jordan Watkins, that group of young guys that they're expecting to step up, and they would have liked to have seen one or two of those guys step up in 2025. I think that's, again, going to be a huge, huge storyline this spring.
Yeah, I should note that the next major thing for 49er fans is going to be the Combine, where John Lynch always goes and gives a presser. Kyle Shanahan often does not go, and I doubt he'll be going this year. The coaches don't tend to go. Maybe, and he definitely doesn't go when they play deep into the playoffs. They did not play deep in the playoffs, but they played some extra rounds.
Deep-ish, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't short, but Lynch will be there. But then they both are mandatory. They both speak at the owners' meetings, which tend to be in mid-March. So you got the late February Combine. You've got the mid-March owners' meetings. The owners' meetings are always good. Sometimes I even go. I will not go this year. When you get the kind of the first Kyle Shanahan off-season look, those are two big events coming up, and I know Matt Barrows will be there for those. So
I will be there for those. I have to go. I never can get over the irony of I live about 11 miles from John Lynch, and yet I have to go to Indianapolis to talk to Lynch, which is so absurd, but I do it every year.
I think a lot of people do it with a lot of different executives. It's just where they are. It's where they tend to do it. And John Lynch doesn't like you. So that's part of it too, I'm sure. It's a personal thing. It's definitely personal. All right, everybody. With that, we will come back next week. We will have a mailbag episode. Again, I will send out on social media the number, and we'll ask some good questions, and we will answer them to the best of our abilities. All right. See you, everybody.